Hello everybody, welcome to today's video on general navigation in embedded Power BI workspaces. This is going to be the first video in a two-video series. As I said, this first video is just going to cover general navigation in one of your most basic embedded Power BI workspaces. And the next video will cover what's called an analytical Power BI workspace, and how you can automate data refresh across all of these different workspaces. So to begin today's video, we're going to be working with the Financial Insights workspace, which can be found by going to your module menu, going to the General Ledger module right here, and then clicking over here under Workspaces, clicking on Financial Insights. Okay, give that a moment to load. You'll see the Power BI symbol here loading up things. Something to quickly note here is that you do need a Power BI license linked with your environment to get this to work. If that's something you don't have, you should definitely be doing that first. Otherwise, you're going to be met with a bunch of errors. If you already did that, you should be good to go. And then you can just move on with the presentation. So here I am at the Financial Insights workspace, and we're going to be starting with the second tab here, this Revenue and Expense Insights down here at the bottom. Okay, so without further ado, here is our Financial Insights workspace. So the first thing I'm going to be covering is filtering all these different visuals that we have here on this tab. And we're going to cover different types of filters here to break these visuals down in different ways. So if you hover over here on the right side, you're going to see this black pane, your filters pane. And on this filters pane, you're going to see there's actually 3 levels of filters. You only see 2 of them right now. That's because one of them is hidden until I select one of these visuals on my page. So let's select this revenue card visual over here on the left side. Click that. And you'll see now that I have this visual level filter. So what are all these different levels of filters? What do they do? Starting with the visual level filters, if I select any specific visual, those filters are going to apply to that specific visual that I have selected. So in this case, I have the revenue card visual selected here on my page. That means any filters I change here will affect that specific visual. I can click on, say, my expenses by category pie chart here towards the center. And you'll notice that the visual level filters change depending on what I select. Okay, moving on to the page level filters. Page level filters are filters that are going to affect the entire page of visuals. So you've been hearing me refer to down here as tabs because that's what everyone's familiar with coming from Excel. But these Power BI embedded workspaces, these are using essentially a watered down version of the actual Power BI desktop. It doesn't give you all the options that are available in Power BI, which is fine. It gives you a lot of basic it gives you a lot of basic functionality. That's enough to give you access to a lot of great information about any of the companies you have set up in your system. And really there was a purpose for that, in order to just keep things pretty much basic and easy to use for users. And then if people wanted to try and do more, you have Power BI Desktop to help you out with that. But Power BI, instead of calling these tabs, we'll call these pages. So each of these tabs, as we've been calling them, they are considered pages in Power BI. So with that knowledge in front of you, you might understand now that the page level filters imply that it's going to affect that entire tab of visuals. So let's say for this date specific filter I have here, I want to filter everything for just 2016 through 2017. By default, it's using a relative date filter for the past 3 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here and I'm going to change that relative date filtering to advanced filtering. It's already set up to do filter my dates based on or after, and a on or before, essentially a to and a from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in 1/1/2016, and I'm going to move over here to the bottom one and type in 12/31/2017, because I just want to see my data for the years 2016 and 17, and then watch all of my visuals change as soon as I click this apply filter button. Boom. See all the cards are changing. You see all the different visuals are changing based on how I filtered my page level filter, because it's for the entire page. If I click to a different page or tab here, say like this financial overview down here, bottom left, you'll notice that my date filter went back to that relative date filter the past 3 years. That's because this is a completely different page level filter for this specific page. So I'm going to click back to my revenue and expense insights page. And I'd like to show you one more way you can do page filters that isn't so obvious. So these page level filters here on the filters pane are not all of your options. You actually have options hidden within your visuals themselves. So let's say I wanted to filter my entire page here by, say, selling expense, as in any of these visuals that contains anything related to expenses. I want to see of that expense portion of my visuals, I want to see how much of that is made up of selling expenses. So what I can do is I can come to this pie chart and I can click this part of the pie that shows selling expenses. And by doing that, you'll notice all of my numbers change. You can ignore this error. Visuals change. That's what matters. This is a demo environment, so please ignore the error. I'm going to close out of that. But you'll notice revenue disappeared because that has nothing to do with selling expenses. My expenses are here, and it filtered it down to my selling expense number. Net income is only going to include that selling expense because, again, it includes expenses, and it's showing me what's the makeup of the selling expenses in that specific visual, and so on with the rest of these. If I want to take off that specific page level filter by clicking that I created by clicking on that portion of the pie chart, I just deselect by clicking away, and it brings back all of my visuals back to their original form. Again, just ignore the error. Everything's working fine right now. So that's the other way you can do page level filters, just by clicking on different visuals and just having everything changed based on that specific page. So moving back to the filters pane, we're going to look at the report level filters. Here you have filters that affect your entire embedded Power BI workspace. So meaning every single tab or page will be affected by these specific filters. So let's say I wanted to bring in data for not just this specific organization you see here, this USMF, which is the current company we're in right now, current legal entity. But let's say I want to bring in for something else. So what I can do is open that up and let the basic filtering load up all the companies. And let's just say I also want to bring in, USSI. I can click on USSI, and you'll notice that the numbers update based on the companies that I've selected. So right now I have USMF and USSI selected. If I click to a different tab or page, so again, I'm going to go back to that financial overview tab that I clicked back to before, click it. You'll notice that those report level filters stayed the same. I'm still getting USMF. I'm still getting USSI. Like I said, it's because the report level filters that are going to affect every single page that I click to. Every single page will have these filters apply. They will be showing me data for both of these companies. So clicking back to the revenue and expense insights tab, I'm going to go ahead. So that's the 3 levels of filtering that are available in D365 environment. If you want to hold on to all of these filters, you can always click this keep all filters button, make sure that's on, and then you can close your filters pane. Okay, so now that we've gone over the different ways that you can filter on your Power BI embedded workspace, let's kind of talk about options that are available specifically by hovering over these visuals, and you'll see, you can see that there's like little icons appearing on the top right of the visuals as I hover over them. Some of them have more icons than other ones. So namely like these revenue by region maps, or even this bar chart. Excuse me. Mainly the revenue by region maps here. I can click back to the financial overview, and you'll notice that there's these bar charts here, and there's also this little trial balance here, and it's got more. So depending on the visual you're hovering over, or if you select it, the icons appear permanently, you'll have different options of what you can do with that specific visual. So let's say I'm looking at my bar graph here at the bottom, my revenue and expenses. I select that. You'll notice I've selected it because I have the gray bar right above it. Let's say I want to know the data that's making up these numbers here. So, I mean, I have these bars. I have, my revenue and expenses, the number, the values. It's being measured here on the left side. But this isn't really too helpful of information right now. And I don't really have an easy way of editing this bar chart. So let's say I want to export the data that's making up the numbers that's making up this chart. If I click on this ellipses symbol here for more options, I can click that, and I can click this show data button here. If I click that, it'll bring me up to this what's called the focus view. And below this focus view of my specific little bar graph, I'm going to see this table here, and this table is going to show me what's making up this specific visual, the underlying data. So this visual is looking at revenues and expenses. Revenues on the left side, expenses on the right side, and showing me that in this table for each period that I have here. Keep in mind, these periods are including 2016 to 2017. So it's January 2016, 2017 revenue and expenses, and then so on and so on for each period or month, essentially. Let's say I wanted to export this underlying data to Excel because I wanted to do further analysis from there. I have the option to export this data by clicking on the triple ellipsis within this focus mode here, or I can go back to my report to just see the full report here, and I can go back to the triple ellipsis there, and I can click export data. And then what that's going to do is, you can see here at the bottom left, it's going to download that as a CSV file. I click that. Let me drag that over. It's on my other screen. And you see that I have that exact table that we saw. It shifted the periods over to the right side, but essentially I have the same values that I had in that table when I was looking at the underlying data. And then from here, I can format things and just do whatever I want to do, whatever kind of analysis I want to do here. So we'll close out of there. I don't want to save it. Heading back to this ellipses, let's say you're showing people at your desk one of these graphs or features, and let's say you're looking at a really busy Power BI page and you wanted to highlight something for one of your colleagues or coworkers, or just anybody that's you're bringing over. Under this triple ellipsis, you have this spotlight feature, which will gray out all the other visuals and just focus everyone's attention to whatever you decided to spotlight. A different way of doing this too is using focus mode. So if you recall, I mentioned that when we went to show data, it brought up this specific visual in what's called focus mode. And if you didn't really care about what the underlying data was, and you just wanted that specific visual to just encompass the entire screen, on the left side of this triple ellipsis, you have the focus mode button here. I click that. It brings the entire visual to fill up my screen. And it shows me the breakdown as well. So takes that specific visual, fills up the screen, just gives you an easy way of looking at it and showing anybody else that you might want to, coming over to your computer or anything like that. Just helps you. It's just easier on the eyes, essentially. Okay. So, the last thing I wanted to take a peek at is I wanted to show you, if I come back to this financial overview tab, something else we can do is if we have something that's set up as a table or matrix, like this trial balance visual here, so I can scroll around, sometimes you'll get the ability to drill down on specific numbers. And so what we can do is we can go over here to the right side of this trial balance visual, and there's this down arrow, and this down arrow is going to allow me to turn on drill down. And it'll allow me to see what's making up specific numbers in my trial balance. So let's say I wanted to see what's making up this equity number here of 123,000. So if I want to click on that, double clicking on it, it'll bring me down to what's making up that $123,000 number for my equity account or my equity balance. If I wanted to go down all the way down, to as far as I can drill down, there is this button here to expand all down one level in the hierarchy. And essentially it'll, let me click this up button to drill back up. So, sorry, going to the wrong button. If I wanted to drill down everything here, In this trial balance by one level, I have this expand all down one level hierarchy in the hierarchy button. So if I click that, everything gets drilled down. So I see all of my visuals. This is different from what I was doing previously, because previously I was just double clicking on equity and just showing myself what the breakdown for equity was. If I wanted to take everything down another level, I click this again, and essentially I can keep clicking it until I get to as far down as I possibly can. So if you want to drill down as far as you possibly can with everything, you would just keep clicking this button here to drill everything down one level until you got to the base information. And then from here, I can go to, if I want to like look at this data further in a spreadsheet, I can go to my triple ellipsis and click on export data, bring that to a spreadsheet for further analysis. Or I can just, if I didn't really care, but I wanted to bring it back to its original state, I can click this drill up button and it'll just take me back up to the top. Okay. And something else I can do is I can switch the drill down or the drill on to columns. And so there we go. And by doing that, I can look at specific information for specified years. So if I click drill down on all levels, you'll see it's a different kind of breakdown. So I'm still seeing equity, liability, asset, expense, revenue at the high level, but since I switched it to columns, it's going to start drilling down on my years, and it'll start breaking down the years down to quarters. And if I hit it again, I'll break that down to months, and that's as far as it'll go for now. But you'll see I can switch it between breaking it down on the rows or breaking it down on the columns. Okay. And so that's pretty much it for the basics on these embedded Power BI workspaces. I would highly encourage you to play around with these more, specifically with those page level filters that are dictated by what you select in a specific visual. Jumping back to that actually really quick. I'm clicking back to my revenue expenses insights. Other things you can do with those is you can click inside these maps for different states and filter like a whole entire page based on a state or based on different regions. You can also click on anywhere that would show like a company name. So back here in my financial overview tab or page, you can click on USMF or USSI and get that same page level filter effect for this entire page based on specific companies, or click a way to take it off. So I would encourage you more to play with those what I call the hidden page level filters that are within the different visuals, and just see what kind of results you can get. But that's it for today's video. Part 2 will be coming soon. This should be linked in the description when available. Please, check out our website, www.avantiico.com, and feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions, or send me an email if you have any questions. That'll also be in the description. And thank you again for listening to our video.